So that's the housekeeping out of the way. Um, if you want any more details like that, then it's all in the app. But Kerry, really, really excited to have you on this evening. As I say, auctions seems to be one of the hot topics at the moment. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it right back to your career in finance and property. Where did it all start from you? How did you end up getting involved with Roma Finance?
Um, so I actually was originally going to be a teacher,
Yeah.
and I was teaching like in the community, like abused women, disabled adults, and I loved it, but I was still on my placement at uni. So the council then cut the budget, so the job that they'd offered me didn't exist anymore. So I then went off traveling for 5 years and came back and I started obviously, come back from 5 years. I'm just trying to get any job I can really. So I started off in car insurance and then from there moved over to second charge mortgages. And
Right.
then from there came to Roma.
Great stuff. And Roma seems like such an incredible company to work for. Everyone that I speak to that's at Roma, they really seem to love working there and
Yeah.
they stick around for quite a while. And the other thing that we love about Roma is that there's not probably a property event in the UK where there isn't someone from Roma Finance there that's really
Yeah,
sort of
no,
boots
that's
on the
true.
ground. So have you been clocking up the mileage and are you enjoying it with Roma?
No, I absolutely love it. To be fair, I am mostly office based, but I do get out and about. Obviously when I can, like mostly down to London because that's kind of my area. Um, but yeah,
Great stuff. And am I right in saying you started off in sales support and then transitioned to business development?
yeah. So I started off in sales support, which was essentially sort of supporting the BDMs, helping them with the terms, helping them with the chase, like checking the packs, that kind of thing. And then the BDE role came into place, and that was sort of like a telephone-based BDM. So
Mm,
I went for that because I was working towards that when I was doing sales support anyway. And then obviously got that role, which was great, and then became a team leader of that role as well. So as I say, I've been there just how long have I been there? 22, just over 3 years, I think. I think just over 3 years, yeah. So in that time, I've progressed quite a lot. So it's been really great.
amazing. And what are some of the big lessons that you've learned about each shape um, of how you work with brokers and borrowers today? What's some of the lessons that you've learned around
I think the
the interaction?
biggest, yeah, I think the biggest lesson is to just be transparent, like all the time. Because maybe sometimes, like when I first started, I thought, oh, maybe don't, you're a bit scared of how people react. But at the end of the day, just being honest and transparent, just it's the best outcome for everyone ever. Like, don't be scared to have a difficult conversation because at the end of the day, the outcome, you want the best outcome for the customer. So sometimes you do need to have the difficult conversations in order to make that happen.
Yeah, and you guys are sort of very borrower first in terms
Yeah,
of the way that you lead
absolutely.
your experience. So what does that look like in practice from first inquiry to then the funds being drawn down?
I mean, it's difficult to say because it depends on the borrower. But no, what we do as a whole is like when we get our underwriting stage, it's not automated at all. It's all so manual. Like so we look at the customer, the experience they've got, like what we've got in the background, other projects, and just how we can help them get to the outcome that they want, really.
Okay,
So
and
it's not necessarily about kind of say looking at the property, it's looking at the customer and what they can do. Whereas I think in a more automated sort of role, the property might get flagged of, I don't know, like missing a wall.
yeah.
And they're like, oh no, we're not going to lend. We're like, well, why wouldn't we lend when this customer's done this about 3 times already?
And have you always specifically worked on auctions or have you seen sort of all sorts of projects come through the door?
Oh, all sorts. Like honestly, no day's the same. And you constantly, honestly, I'm learning every day still in this job.
So when someone calls you about an auction purchase, what are the sort of first three things that you basically need to understand before you go any further?
Uh, what's the deadline?
Yeah.
Where their deposit is coming from, because as Roma, we do want the customer to have a stake in the transaction. And what the plans for the property are as well, because if it's on a tight deadline, but we're planning on doing something, whereas we may need a full val, then we can at least preempt that and or maybe get an extension early on if it is going to need the full val, that kind of thing.
Great, and the deadline is one of the big things, and it's why sort of lenders have been traditionally a bit averse to auctions in
Yeah.
terms of trying to get it over the line. How quick have you seen some of those deadlines? How quick have you seen people
Wow.
wanting to get it over the line?
I mean, we've had, I think our record completion, I want to say, was it something like, don't quote me on this because I could be wrong, but I swear it was something like 2 days, like our record, like auction completion.
Yeah,
But I recently had one, a direct one, and that was completed completely within the time frame, to the date you wanted, no problems, that kind of thing.
and is that quite stressful? If someone says I need lending within 48 hours, I imagine a lot of things have to stop, and you have to sort of really focus on that to get it over the line.
Yeah, to be fair, I've not had one like that. Luckily, my auctions have been sort of a 4 week time frame, or even, the modern method of 56 days.
Yeah,
So I've been quite fortunate that I've not had to deal with anything stressful like that. But even the 28-day ones, because obviously the customer's like wanting to get it moving, it's obviously stressful for them. And then you want to make sure that they're getting it. You don't want anything to fall down at your end that would like obviously be a detriment to them.
yeah. And you Roma this year have brought out several new products, and
Yes.
and one of them is RomaFLOW. So where does that fit in, and who's it for sort of specifically?
So the Roma Flow, it's kind of like there's a couple of products in there in the Flow range. So essentially, it's from like your standard purchase, and then it goes all the way up to sort of your light refurb. Because
Yeah,
with our refurb, we kind of class whether it's standard or light, medium, or heavy in relation to a percentage of the cost of works in relation to the market value. So if your cost of works is sort of under 50% of the current market value and there's nothing structural, then that's sort of a more complicated end of our flow range, if you get me.
yeah,
So it's a purchase, then it's for standard refurb where the cost of works are less than 25% of the current value, then up to the light refurb, dependent on whether or not it's structural. Um, but yeah, so again, it sort of suits people who are buying at auction, that kind of thing, because it is a streamlined legal process with the flow range. I think we only tend to have we do it on title insurance, so there's only about 7 questions at legal stage. And obviously, depending on what the deal is, we can look to use a dual rep, AVMs, and desktops for speed. So it just really helps to streamline the process.
great. So one of the questions we asked Matt as an auctioneer was what are sort of the common myths about auctions and how they take place and what the reality
Yeah.
is in truth. But there's also a lot of common myths about bridging for auctions.
Yeah.
What are some of those that you can sort of shed a light on, dispel for us?
I don't know if it's a myth of such, but we do get a lot of people who are buying at auction believing that they're getting a below market value sort of property.
Yeah,
For us at an auction, it's not below market value because you're paying what you're prepared to pay for it. It's not like it's coming, and obviously there's always the guide price, which, you have to get to.
yeah,
So it's not necessarily below market value, which I think obviously some people, it can be kind of difficult to understand, especially if they're got of understanding, what they're going to do to it and that kind of thing. And we know they're getting a good deal.
yeah. Well, the market value is always dictated by the market itself.
Well,
So if
yeah,
that's what the market's prepared to pay for it,
yeah,
then that's it. Yeah.
yeah.
And in terms of, can you share a recent auction deal that you've worked on that you're particularly proud of, or even sort of a difficult situation that you've managed to fix? I think what our audience be really keen to hear is sort of some real case studies in terms of
Yeah.
stuff that you've
Um,
worked on and
oh,
stuff.
absolutely. So I actually have just the one I had recently. It completed this just at the start of this month. So obviously I got it in at the start of November. Obviously the borrower called me. So he had actually won it at auction and then he called me looking for the finance. ideally, uh, I would have liked him to have phoned me a week before so he could have everything prepared. But as it was, he got everything, all the documents in that I needed over the weekend, and we were able to desk file this one.
Yeah.
But there was a little bit of a sticking point because he did only have pictures for a desk file. We do need to have pictures of him. Obviously, it was two flats he was buying. He did only have pictures of one of the flats. So that did put a little bit of a delay on the report because he was then able to get them. Obviously, it took the surveyor a little bit longer to do his report, which when we were on a tight deadline, um, it was a bit. But what we also did to help streamline the process is we instructed the legals at the same time it was as we instructed the Val, so at least it was progressing at legals. So, and once we sorted the Val, obviously the customer was happy and he's completed on time, and yeah, he's happy to use us again, that kind of thing. So,
So
success. Yeah,
it was a bit touch and go, but you got
yeah,
there in the end.
yeah.
So timelines are just an absolute theme with auctions. So in terms of what looks fast, is Roma Flow faster than a standard route of achieving finance at auction? And why is that?
I guess I mean it depends on. Yeah, I say a lot does depend on solicitors. Um, customers, solicitors. So your more experienced borrowers will probably have a faster process because they know to use a solicitor who's experienced in bridging. Whereas
Yeah.
if it's someone's first time, they might use, a family solicitor or somebody who doesn't have that experience. So that can cause delays. Um, so yeah, definitely say do your research on your solicitors, especially if it's an auction purchase and you're on a tight time frame.
And solicitors love documentation. Well, lenders love documentation as well.
I think that form is quite minimal, to be fair.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, in terms of sort of your documentation, like if you've obviously got the legal pack and stuff from the auction house, but what is really going to help you speed up the process, particularly when deadlines are so tight?
Filling everything in properly on your app form,
Yeah.
getting getting everything back. So if you do go ahead with us, you get your documents, then you have a little shopping list email. Just send back everything on that, fill in the app form completely, and then there's no hold-ups at that stage.
And sometimes valuations can slow things down.
They can, yeah. So
Yeah.
again, it does depend on the deal. Obviously, if we're able to use an AVM or a desktop, that does help. But sometimes you do need a full val depending on what they're doing. But we have our sort of trusted partners, surveyors who we work with, so we can approach them directly and sort of stress the urgency of the time frame and the urgency of getting the report back. So because we have that relationship externally, that can really help towards the ones that do need a full valuation.
Right. And is there a particular property criteria that would determine between sort of desktop or full valuations?
But I suppose it depends on the works that you're doing. If it's works, then 9 times out of 10 we probably will want a full val because we're going to
Yeah.
want to make sure that the GDV stacks, like not just for us, but obviously for the borrower as well. Because if the GDV is not going to stack, is it a viable project?
Yeah, totally agree. And so that we've highlighted the documentation, we've highlighted the sort of valuation route, but then the major thing is legal packs. And when we had Matt on for the auctions webinar, legal packs was something that he was dead set on in terms of what's included in there. But what are some of the red flags that you see in auction legals um, that borrowers can often miss? And how should they respond if there's something that's not awry in there?
To be fair, I think obviously not, I don't, I'm more at the front end rather than sort of a legal side. But I do know obviously some things can get held up if there's, say, restrictive covenants in there, but it's not massively highlighted and it's like further down that you have to dig into it, or multiple titles that can complicate matters. Um, but yeah, I guess all you can say is do your due diligence, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. It would even be worth sort of viewing it as if you were a first time buyer. buying that
100%. Yeah.
property, and if there was anything in there that would worry you, because we know first-time buyers can be extremely cautious
Yeah.
in terms of stuff that comes forward, whether it's the survey or the legal pack,
Yeah.
that might be worth sort of, you know, going back and double checking.
Yeah, definitely.
So, how do you assess exit sensibly? Obviously, varies a lot in today's market, but especially when a refinance relies on sort of rental stress tests or a
Yeah.
rapid flip.
So our loan to GDV, we cap it at 70%. So that gives ample room to exit should we need to refinance. And we do. I'm not entirely sure how this works, but we do have something where at the start we can ask for projected rental income and just run it through our little sort of buy to let stress thing to see what we could, the max we could refinance at. And then if it is looking a bit, just have a chat with the customer and just let them know. And then obviously we can make informed decisions from that.
Would you draw a line under sort of property condition? Is there anything that you won't touch in terms of like how bad it is or how much work needs doing?
No, not necessarily. Like I say, it depends on the customer's experience. But if it is one that does need a lot of work, then that's highly likely that it's going to definitely need a full valuation. Depending on the kind of works, does it need, full due diligence at legal stage?
Yeah,
So that could delay things. But again, as if the customer sort of we're transparent up front and they can have those conversations, potentially get an extension, but then even preempt their solicitors that this is what it's going to be, and then everyone can work together in order to get the fastest completion.
great. And refurb bridges are typically sort of popular at post auction. How do you look at sort of light works versus heavy works, and how should borrowers present their scope and costs?
So with us, depending on the product you would go on, depends on how much the cost of works are in relation to the value. So as I say, light is anything below 50, medium's 50 to 100, and heavy is anything over 100. Um, Schedule of work, obviously, we're expecting the customer to have an idea of what they're wanting to do to the property. So we would expect them to have a rough idea of the works. Obviously, once we've, seen it and had it valued, that could change.
Yeah.
But, just like a spreadsheet, what we think they're going to do here, that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah, and you guys have just announced a major partnership with Help Build and the refurb calculator,
yes.
which provides you with a full schedule of work. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's really handy and that feeds nicely
No,
into the.
definitely. Yeah.
So, if you're able to submit that schedule of works, then a lot of the work is done there for the lender
Yeah.
to be able to
No,
ascertain
absolutely.
what's going on. So, prices and fees, how should a borrower think about total costs of capital for a quick, certain completion versus maybe a slower but cheaper path?
Oh, God, ask me that again. I'm confused. I didn't get you.
Yeah, so how should a borrower think about the total cost of capital for a certain completion
Yeah.
versus maybe a slower but cheaper route?
Uh, I suppose for us, we always work towards the completion date. So our rates for the product, not for completion, if you get me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would always say, make sure you got your money for your val, your legals, your deposit. Depend, if it's obviously not auction, but heavier, you might need a QS, that kind of stuff. Money to start works.
And we keep going over this, but I think it's really important that borrowers and people going to auction, there are sort of potential stuff that they can do to help it pull together and
Yeah.
actually get the time through quicker. Things like sort of lower leverage, extra security, that sort of thing. Is that
So
right? What's
not necessarily with additional security, because sometimes if we are taking additional, you need to get second charge consent, and that can sometimes take a while.
but if we were looking at sort of personal guarantees, that sort of thing. Would that work?
So for us, if it was a first charge we were taking over an additional security, absolutely fine. If
Mm.
it's a second charge, that can cause delays because we can't complete until we've got the second charge consent. Um, Obviously, a lower leverage doesn't necessarily speed things up because, as I say, it still goes through the same legal process.
In terms of you, since you launched RomaFLOW, and you guys have obviously been working quite heavily on auctions, have you seen not just obviously more people using the product, but have you seen more people coming to auction and using the auction side of things? Do you see that sort of being a major theme for 2026?
I'd say probably. I think we're only going to increase because obviously there's so many more online now, aren't there? Like I think obviously back in the day it used to be you'd go to the room and but now we're just we're everywhere.
And there sort of trends that you've seen in 2025 that would be on trend probably for next year, like sort of title quirks, planning surprises, that sort of thing.
I mean, I'd definitely say there's wider competition because obviously auctions are a lot more accessible now,
Hmm.
and whether or not that may lead to quicker deadlines coming into place,
Yeah.
um, planning surprises. With, I mean, there's always a planning surprise, isn't there? I think basically with planning, I'd always say just make sure you've got a solid backup option just in case.
And is there more competition in a particular region? Is it like the Midlands or the Northwest that are doing better than the South, or is
To
there?
be honest, I don't, I wouldn't be able to answer that. I'm not too sure.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, because I feel like with the auctions being online is for now that competition. Do you know what I mean? Because we're quite, I was going to say worldwide. That's not what I meant. All around the
yeah,
country.
yeah. Yeah, I have heard from some developers it does vary from region to region,
Yeah,
but I mean that could be down to sort of population density as
yeah.
well. So yeah, it's always worth sort of speaking to your local auctioneer and
No,
seeing what kind of
definitely. Yeah,
competition there is in
yeah.
the room. Um, so brokers typically can sort of make or break the speed. What does a great broker do that others don't? And how can sort of brokers help their customers secure the funding faster with lenders
Um,
like Roma?
so for brokers, I think a great broker, we don't just wait till they've won it at auction. They approach us early, they get all the documents, and they get everything in from a customer. So that if they do win, it's just ready to go, rather than waiting for them to win, then requesting everything from us, then giving it to the customer, just preempting it. Like, let's just get this just in case, and it'll just speed up the process, for sure. And obviously, brokers who check the documents and make sure it's all filled in, love them.
Awesome. Guys, if you've got any questions, do please put them in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. And obviously, if Kerry can answer any questions, we'll do it live on the call tonight. Um, if a borrower has a bruised credit history, but they've got a strong asset and they've got a clear exit, Roma, what would give you confidence to sort of lean into that opportunity?
It depends on the credit.
Yeah,
I'd need to review the credit and make my decision based on that. And also just understanding the reasoning behind it as well. Because obviously, stuff like life events, could lead to a little bit of adverse. Can we take a view on that? If it's just a case of I've not paid my mortgage to go on holiday kind of thing,
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
depends on reasoning, it depends what the credit is. There's a lot to that.
Course. And I guess that in certain situations there needs to be sort of a bit of human nuance applied.
Yeah.
So when you're in the office, how much of it is sort of tech based in terms of sort of algorithms working out whether it's someone's, you know,
Oh, none
all,
of it. We're all manual. Yeah.
all human?
Yeah, all human. So obviously from my point, like where I'd have your conversations, I'll have my conversations front and then underwrite. Obviously we do certain searches and stuff, but underwriting do their due diligence. That way we don't, algorithm anything to say yes or no.
Do you know, that's so reassuring because I put a post out today. I've spent the last 2 weeks trying to set up automations and AI for UK Homes Network, and it's
Yeah.
absolutely drove me up the wall. And it's way better
Oh,
to
I
do it
know.
in person. So it's actually refreshing to hear someone's actually still doing it on human judgment alone
Yeah.
rather than relying on tech. So a lot of people will be sort of, rightly sort of a little bit worried about next year. But is there anything that you're looking optimistically about next year?
I mean, have it, if it goes like this year's not been bad, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now I think was obviously with what's been announced and hopefully a base rate reduction coming in again, just there might be just be that bit more stability that will give people more confidence to buy again.
So in terms of the year that's just gone, you feel that although that there's been a lot of sort of noise in the media,
Yeah.
it's really not actually been that bad in
I wouldn't,
property.
I mean, I think people are still doing it, whether on, maybe we're not doing it the scale that we were doing it, or, as confident as we were, and, maybe, but then is it a good thing that we're now doing more due diligence? I think there's
Yeah.
sort of swings and roundabouts to everything, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned sort of, working in the sort of second charge mortgages route,
Mm.
and obviously we've seen sort of some lenders coming back with sort of some strange products that are opening up. That tighter regulation has given a lot of people more confidence that
Yeah.
it's not going to be a 2008 situation, which
Yeah.
is dead
No,
good.
definitely.
But yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. People are just going to crack on regardless.
Yeah.
So it's those ones that are going out there finding the opportunities every day,
Yeah.
turning up to their local on auction house or online, and
Yeah. There
seeing
you go.
what deals are available. So Roma's had a pretty big year, released three new products. Is it free?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna go with free. And
Yeah.
is there any is there anything that you can sort of reveal about next year in terms of plans for Roma? Have you got sort of more products coming down the line?
We've definitely
Um,
got more products coming.
yeah.
Um, I don't really know what I'm allowed to say. So, but let's just say watch this space.
Yeah, I don't want to throw you under the bus. I'll be
I know,
getting a
yeah, I'm
call
like,
tomorrow.
can I say? Yeah, no, it's going to be good. It's going to be really good.
And for landlords and developers listening, what would you do in the next sort of 30 days to be auction ready before anything starts?
Have a look. To be, let's just say have a look. If there's anything you want to buy, maybe try and go and see it, get some due diligence done before it goes to auction. Just be as prepared as you can, really.
Yeah. Well, what would you do to get yourself prepared? What's the kind of things that you would line up? So we mentioned about sort of valuations, legal packs, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'll probably try and get hold of a legal pack just to read through it, make sure there's nothing in there that's going to cause any delays. Really think about what I want to do to the property. And obviously think from the lender's perspective, can I do, will this need a full valuation? If it does, make sure I've got, like my finances in order for my deposit, my legals, lender's legals, valuation fees, um, money to start my work should I need it, getting my schedule of works in place, that kind of thing. Maybe even speaking to a builder, should I need one of those.
And is there sort of common mistakes that you see borrowers making? Is there anything that you can help people avoid on this call tonight that probably is going to come down the line in the first
Um,
quarter of
I
next year?
don't know if it's mistakes. I just think um, it's just be prepared, just your preparation. I think because not when people go to auction, I don't think we always expect to win. So sometimes we win an auction, we're like, oh, oh no, now I need to sort it. Like
Yeah.
maybe just assume that you're going to win all the time and get everything in place beforehand.
And a bit of a fun question. What's the most unique or maddest property you've seen at auction?
Uh, I tell you what, I don't know. It's not that unique, really, or maybe it is. But in Newcastle
Yeah.
or the Northeast, when you buy flats, I'm going to explain this terribly now. Each flat has so one flat has the freehold and the other flat has the leasehold. So we like crossed, and it was to stop them all being sold off, to like big companies apparently. So I thought that was quite interesting when I found that out.
Yeah, definitely. And have you seen anything wider with Roma that's quite unique in terms of the stuff that you've lent on?
Where to start? We've definitely learnt on some weird and wonderful things. Um, Off the top of my head, I can't even think, but there's so many. Do you know what I mean?
Look, I worked for my first job in marketing was for a bridging broker, and
Yeah.
we used to get like old pill boxes, you know, the World War II ones.
Oh yeah.
We used to get them come through, and there was even a nuclear power station. Sorry, it was an
Oh yeah, I've seen a
ex-power
water
station.
tower. That was pretty cool.
Oh, what? Sorry?
A water tower.
Oh, awesome. Was it one of the old Victorian ones?
Yeah, like the big circular things.
Yeah. I always think they look like something out of Star Wars.
We do, but it was giving me anxiety as well because I thought if it's round walls, what kind of bed are you going to get? Like, because you couldn't have a square bed against a round wall. I was really overthinking the furnishings anyway.
No, that's a good point. How are you actually gonna like nail stuff to the wall to
God,
have
yeah.
like mirrors and picture frames up? That's yeah.
Right?
Thankfully, you don't have to get
I
involved in
spent
that
far too much time getting stressed about it.
bit. Well, talking of stress, if there was one thing about the auction process that you could change going into next year, what would it be? What would make your life easier?
Longer deadlines.
Longer deadlines, of course. And is there anything else in terms of sort of the information that's shared or how they interact?
To be honest, I think because it does vary. You know, like on what's in the legal pack. So yeah, ideally everything will be laid out in a really nice, clear, concise way for everyone to just easily see. That's not always the case, is it? So
Yeah.
again, it's just a case of making sure you read it.
Great stuff. Kerry, before I'll go to our final question, guys, if you want to put any if you want to put any questions in the chat, please do submit them to Kerry, and she'd be happy to answer those for you. But Lily said yes, always a stress about hanging my paintings in a round building. So yeah, we're
I'd
not
have,
alone on
I'd
that
have to
one.
move out. I couldn't.
Yeah, yeah, or you'd end up snapping every frame just to get it flush against the wall.
Yeah.
So Kerry, in terms of Roma Finance, it's clear you can't move in the property industry without coming across Roma Finance. But if people wanted to reach out to you, if they wanted to discuss it a little bit more, where can people find you, and what's the best way to sort of contact you and share some of the information?
So in my email address or my phone number, definitely.
Yeah, great. Well, we'll get that shared in the UK Homes Network after this. And of course,
Perfect.
obviously, if you go to the Roma, search Roma Finance in Google,
I
they'll
think
come
I'm
up
on the
there.
website somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Lily's come back with a question. Do you recommend to use specialist solicitors for legal packs for auction?
I would say definitely use a solicitor that's experienced in bridging, especially auction purchases, because if you deal with them day in, day out, they're going to know exactly what to look for and help speed up your process.
Great stuff. Do you think that must be quite a niche amount of solicitors that are out there that would?
Honestly, I don't know, because working in bridging, I'm like, I don't know. Um,
Yeah, well, it's growing anyway because of
yeah,
the amount of auctions that are actually coming through. Yeah, Lily's just said yes, our deal fall through. So
oh
you must
no.
have had experience of that. Um,
Honestly, I can't bridge with Roma. So with us, the only I'm trying to think requirements we have with a solicitor is that they are a minimum of a two partner SRA firm.
could you explain what that means, Kerry? I've not come across that before.
Um, so I think it's a minimum of two partners. I don't really know what the SRA is, but we need to be SRA regulated or something.
Right, cool. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that would be their governing body.
Yes, I guess so. Yeah.
Fair dues. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, well thanks very much, Kerry. I really appreciate your time tonight and thanks for coming on. If anyone wants to reach out to you, please obviously find your details via Roma or Roma Finance in the UK Homes Network platform.
Yeah,
And it'd be amazing to see how many more you're going to lend on next year and all the amazing things that are coming your way.
definitely. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Very welcome. Guys, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. This was our final webinar of the year. We will be back on the 6th of January with John Howard. So if you want to register for that webinar, you can do now in UK Homes Network. And we would love to see you at the brewery in February. So please do make sure you get the details for that. Yeah, share what you've learned for tonight in the platform. And if you've got any questions, please do fire them in. And please do carry on some of the networking that's been going on. But yeah, have a great Christmas, and we'll see you next year.
Thanks a lot.